You guys know Marvel, right?
Shorty, it's your birthday.
Yeah, I don't really know how to introduce this franchise. It's made a bunch of money. Everyone knows it, and I've done several videos by now, like 3 or 4, maybe more. Hey, that rhymed. Wow, I'm so cool. They've recently made some decisions to help better the quality of the movies and slow the production down so there's not so many, and people can take it in better and hopefully like them more. Which is pretty cool, so there's that. And I thought I would take a look back upon a sequel I hadn't seen in a while, 2-3 years maybe, or even really liked upon my first rewatch as I found it kinda boring, and to see if it's gotten better with time, or if I was just really stupid and had a short attention span. And what do you know, it's actually pretty great. No surprise there, though, the first one ruled, and James Gunn's other projects I've seen are also really good. Do knows how to make good comedy and bounce it out with serious moments, which to some is rare for a Marvel movie. But let's see how well it manages to do all that starting now. The film begins with a happy couple driving about, just having a good old time. The man brings the girl behind a Dairy Queen to see an egg. Well, it's only the second weirdest thing you can find in the woods. Yet it seems she likes this, as it's revealed this man with luscious locks is in fact cosmic and wants to spread himself throughout the galaxy. I could have phrased that better. We transition from this side of life to a side of horror. A giant whiny testicle has come to challenge our guardians, Star-Lord, Gamora, Groot, Drax, and Rocket. Looks so gross and wormy, you'd think they'd have to use an entire nation's worth of silicon for the effect. Or silicone, whatever. We get a pretty creative opening sequence scene set to the background of Baby Groot dancing during a fight, and it eventually ends after Gamora defeats it using a sword, despite earlier not wanting to use one. Not a complaint I action like a punchline for a joke, it's the punchline for a joke. The testicle spurts out blood looking like split pea soup, or I guess Nickelodeon slime, I guess. Or
How did we vanquish the beast?
wait, I thought Drax never knew Groot could move, let alone get pissed. Did I miss something? Either way, our heroes get compensated for vanquishing this stinky scrotum by the Discount Blue Man Group, who has a giant problem of being really, really narcissistic. Which almost seems like foreshadowing with the villain R.J. McCready. Ego, so that's cool.
Perhaps someday you could give me a history lesson in the archaic ways of our ancestors. For academic purposes.
Literal Rizzmaster over here. I mean, he is Chris Pratt, so yeah, kinda expected. Either way, they get Nebula back, and Rocket proves to be the best thief by stealing several Annulix batteries. They get on the ship, and during a tough time, Drax helps Star-Lord by recounting a story about his nether regions. Oh. Thanks for that? Jeez, us blue-eyed people gotta stop being such poivets. Anyways, they start getting chased and shot up by the Blue Man Group. Okay, I'll just start calling them what they are, the Sovereign. The Sovereign starts trying to kill them for stealing the Annulix batteries and offending them, and our protagonists end up crashing after being saved by the famed One-Inch Man who comes down in his honeycomb-looking ship. Well, I guess it vaguely resembles a honeycomb because of the yellow interior, like the holes, I guess. The important thing is we get reintroduced to the man from the beginning, along with his friend, Mantis, who's later revealed to be Star-Lord's sister in the holiday special, but that's not revealed now, so yeah. The man from earlier is named Ego, and he's Star-Lord's dad, so this maybe should have been released during Father's Day, just like how Multiverse of Madness was released during Mother's Day. Just a suggestion. We get a pretty good reintroduction scene of Star-Lord's adopted dad, Yondu, showing how arrogant he is, as well as being disconnected from other people. We even see how much he's destroyed by how Stakar reacts when Yondu tries conversing with him, as he deems him unworthy of having the Horns of Freedom play when he dies, or even the colors of a gourd. This character was also introduced in issue 27 of the Defenders, and was originally named Starhawk. At least that's what seems from my research. We also get introduced to Taserface and his contempt for Yondu's softness, setting up a portion of the second act. One interesting thing is how Taserface first appeared early on in the Guardians of the Galaxy comics. In fact, the first one, and could apparently absorb energy, so that's cool.
Error by threatening to eat me. Eat you? Yeah. Oh, that son of a bitch.
That son of a bitch. Me personally, I would have just killed you like your siblings. Oh wait, we're not there yet. Sorry. Star-Lord, Drax, and Gamora decide to go with Mantis and Ego, but not before setting up Rocket Raccoon's arc. See, he's also a douchebag like the Sovereign, and thus hypocritical for making fun of them. We learn a bit more about Mantis and how she can feel what others feel when touching them, as well as altering emotions, which will come back later. We cut back to where Rocket and the others are, with Taserface and the others not far behind, and hey, Kraglin's there, who's also named Rocket apparently, or at least it's part of his name, and who's brothers with the director James Gunn, and was also in the Belko Experiment, which was also written by James Gunn. He couldn't do the film since he was busy with these films, but helped produce it in hell, and even has Michael Rooker in it, who plays Yondu in this, and is in other James Gunn movies. It's also directed by Greg McLean, who did the Wolf Creek movies along with Rogue with Sam Worthington from Avatar. Has John C. McKinley from Scrubs in it, along with Tony Goldwyn from Tarzan, and even John Gallagher Jr., who's in Come Play, and 10 Cloverfield Lane, which has Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who is in Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, which has Anthony Mackie, who's in the MCU, and it all comes full circle. Anyways, I'm sure all of this annoys you. Back to the film, it seems Rocket planned for this intrusion of privacy, and thus several of them get tranquilized, tasered, and just all around fucked with before Yondu finds them, with a short standoff finish once Nebula is freed. Back with the others, they arrive at Ego's home planet, where we learn he's a Celestial and was just born at some point. Some basic neuron activity is what made him aware of his existence and became really lonely, wanting to make more and more to interact with, and created his own planet from the brain, perfecting it and setting out for the cosmos to do the same and finding out there's life. Oh, and he also has a, quote, not half bad penis, which Star-Lord, came from. Also, not like straight out of his penis though, this isn't Leprechaun 4.
Let that be a lesson to you, lad. Always wear a prophylactic.
Whatever that was. And we cut back to Yondu with the top of his head taken off. Hey, it's not the first time he suffered head trauma. Weird I sounded so giddy saying that. He eventually gets stopped from being thrown into the vacuum of space by Nebula, but not as an act of kindness, but rather as an act of common sense, considering all the bounties on his head. She also gets a ship to go back and exact her revenge on her sister Gamora with. There's also that trope in Marvel films where a character being serious and talking about their problems get intercut by a joke, but this film, thankfully, it's much less frequent, as it rarely feels like it's cutting into the scene, or if it does, again, it's much less frequent, as it's serious when it needs to be, and doesn't feel like they themselves don't know how to write drama, and are unsure if people care about it. It's all very good and feels confident, like they know people will care about this stuff. Speaking of serious, we get a pretty good discussion between Peter Quill and Ego about how he left Peter's mother to die and how he never returned. Now, usually these types of arguments revealing how selfish and uncaring a character is are usually around the third act, or at least close to it, revealing how this person's actually a villain, but this is less than halfway in, so it's nicely placed. It addresses what the audience is likely thinking about this dude, and while they're right, it's nice to see them address and give a reason as to why Peter would bother staying, with Ego convincing him of how much he wants to be a good parent, wanting to make up for the mental damage his absence caused. I mean, they even managed to do a game of catch. He's clearly working his charm on a confused and lost Peter, but not in the way a typical bad guy would do. You do get a sense he wants to help his son, and maybe not all of what he said was fake. It's just what he truly wants to do with that power he's making Peter harness is the worrying part. Hell, even the next scene is a bit more lighthearted at first, with Drax basically insulting Mantis in a way before we get a pretty telling and sad bit of Drax's character. Remember how I said earlier Mantis could feel how others are feeling? Well, she does this for Drax and starts to cry while he remains completely blank, managing to bottle it all up despite how depressing in a sense his thoughts are. His memories of a daughter he once had that we learned about in the first one, so this isn't totally random, being brought up again because of a new character. This also helped to establish a bond, like a realistic, interesting bond that you can actually care about with these two in a quick and effective manner, and again makes you invest in and care. I know I'm doing all this philosophical rambling and making it seem like I think this movie's a masterpiece, but I sometimes forget stuff like this. Hey, remember another thing when Yondu and the others got caught? Yeah, let's get more of that with Yondu chastising Rocket for being a reckless old trash panda. And it's here I should mention that I used to get the actor that plays Yondu, Michael Rooker, and Woody Harrelson mixed up because to me, all bald white people with a beard look the same apparently. Things aren't much better with Groot as he gets, hazed like this is some college frat.
Look, bro!
He later meets Yondu and Rocket, who try to help him help Yondu by getting a prototype fin. You know, the thing on his head. And it is here where we learn Groot hates hats. How inspiring. Groot, while trying to find the fin, gets found by the other Rocket, but uses his other name, the...
Craggle!
No, not that. Kraglin. Both movies with Chris Pratt. And he helps him bring the fin and apologizes for, everything that's happened up until this point to these characters. One thing I find interesting is how Kraglin's hair vaguely resembles Yondu's fin as well, just vaguely, but that was kind of cool. The three end up escaping and causing havoc on the ship as Taserface sends out a message to the leader of the Sovereign before blowing the hell up. Oh, and also there's some cool bonding with the three of them. They, along with Kraglin, get on the midnight meat train headed for Ego, which Yondu just absolutely loves the idea of. Oh, and I'm pretty sure there's two Cronins of some sort beating the shit out of each other. Look like two versions of Thanos, but James Gunn cut him from the film, which was a smart move. Too many characters for this one to juggle efficiently, if that were the case, for the put Thanos in. Plus, I don't even know what he'd be in, from what, what would they do with him? Gamora figures out something is wrong with this place, but doesn't get the chance to ponder much, as besides cutting some plants, she's shot at by Nebula. They have a short little scuffle leading into a cage before Gamora gets the upper hand, absolutely obliterating the already messed up ship. She saves Nebula and gets repaid by being further beaten, as all Nebula can see is the reason why her body's been replaced 1,000 times. However, she can't bring herself to kill Gamora as we transition over to another fatherly talk between Ego and Quill, and this discussion is why the twist is actually pretty good, or at least twist in quotes. It's not so out of character, even how he talks, it's all about him and his son, how they're the ones that are going to have to do everything. They have the burden of bringing the light to the cosmos. He is narcissistic and egotistical, like his name, so it makes it feel like a natural conclusion for the character if he was truly an immortal god, or at least a really long-living god, amongst those he thought were not good enough for as long as he's lived. Oh, and Gamora and Nebula find all of Ego's dead children. Yeah, fucked up scene, but it does his job well. Curious to hear what people think about the scene, but it feels weird searching up Guardians of the Galaxy 2 Ego's dead children. Not really a thing you regularly type, or just type at all, so yeah. Rocket and the others finally reach the planet as Ego's big plan is revealed. Remember the plants in the beginning? Also remember how many times I've said remember? Yeah, it turns out that was an extension of Ego, and he does this to several planets, in fact, many, and is waiting for the moment to take over every planet and make it himself. So, this is probably the biggest movie in terms of stakes if you think about it, like, probably even bigger than Infinity War. That was half the universe, but this is potentially all of the universe being taken over, which is something I'm not sure many people talk about. Some people do, but I've never even really realized that upon my initial watches. But now, it's just kind of crazy realizing that, like, holy shit. Everyone would have been fucked had these, like, couple people not done their job, like, not actually stopped it. That's just a really weird thought to me. But, yeah, either way, he then reveals to Peter the reason for his mother's death. In a way, how he's here. It turns out that Earth bitches are no good, and thus he made an executive decision to put a tumor in her head. This obviously has an effect on Peter as he shoots him, only for Ego to turn into David Hasselhoff, best known for his amazing, breakthrough, gut-wrenching performance in Anaconda 3 Offspring. Yes, that is a real movie. Ego starts expanding on Earth and other places, but gets stopped by Yondu crashing into him. They all get on and start bombing into the planet to kill Ego, because his brain is in the middle of the planet, with the Sovereign catching up and, causing some problems. Yet through the power of friendship, and a fuckload of shooting, they manage to defeat them and stop Ego.
Mantis, look out!
Wow, man. Great timing. But because of that mishap, Ego is back and starts taking out the members one by one as they get caught by his tentacles, as it's just Peter Quill with the plants expanding, as Ego gives one last speech, trying to get Peter on his side and help him, cementing how terrible he is. All these lives are just so below him, it's insane. Yet it doesn't work as Ego and Peter Quill fight as he turns into Pac-Man. I mean, you could have turned into Lollipop Chainsaw and I'm sure the fight would have been over quicker, but hey, Pac-Man's. The others either turn on the bomb or start to leave, but Yondu, realizing this is a chance to at least attempt to make up for being a shitty person, stays to get Peter Quill back. Ego tries one last time to change Peter's mind and tell him how it'd just be like everyone else. Yet his plan isn't death-proof as he, dies. Yet honestly it sucks. Maybe it's just me, but I wish he didn't die, but rather lived on as the next big villain after Thanos. I'm not sure if his character could stay interesting that long, but to me he was scarier than someone like Kang. I know he's infinite, but I don't know. Something about a giant killer planet so unempathetic about all the destruction he's caused, making it all about him, like some totalitarian nightmare, is a bit scarier. They're so similar, so it makes me think they might have thought this too, but I don't know. Ego just scared me a bit more, and it makes sense that James Gunn could write an intense character and scene. If you don't believe me, watch Ken Foray and his Dawn of the Dead remake. Yeah, some of the lines in that scene where he's talking didn't age well, and you know what I mean when you watch it, but it still shows he was able to do this well back even in the early 2000s.
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
Yondu saves him, but since there's only one spacesuit, he gives it to Peter, sacrificing himself. They give him a proper space send-off with Ogard and the others earlier coming, as Yondu has finally proven himself. And hey, there's cameos from Ving Rhames, who was in a previous James Gunn movie, Dawn of the Dead, like I said, and Michelle Yeoh. Oh, and Bill Party's in there somewhere. Also, Gamora and Quill are happy again, with nothing that could possibly ruin that at all. Absolutely nothing. And that was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Volume, because, Walkman. Pretty great. Not sure what I should say that I haven't already said. It's a perfect sequel that expands on what we know without feeling completely different, but offering something new. It's got a good, if a bit too obvious villain. Yeah, the Sovereign where there's a slightly better twist than something like Far From Home, but I would have liked something a bit more surprising. Still like it though. The soundtrack is awesome, of course, and the visuals are quite good. Apparently Rob Zombie was in here. I'm sure it's just as amazing a role as him playing God.
You don't profit on the misery of others! The rules were set a long time ago! They don't
I know it seems like I'm praising everything Disney just by my Doctor Strange 2 video being a bit more critical. I thought it's just like a break from all the YouTube videos about how the MCU is in shambles or dying. Just something nice and a bit more positive, and I do genuinely like these movies. Hell, I even like the Play of Hercules Disney put on a couple of months back. So I'm not just giving all these movies a nice review, I'm trying to find the ones I like and talk about them, especially considering how during the quarantine era many said how negative I was, so yeah, there's that. Either way, I hope you enjoyed my review. Curious to hear your thoughts on this video and the movie. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram, I'm active on both, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.